Hello students, today we will study the fifth property of colloidal soul, that is charge on colloidal particles. Colloidal particles always carry an electric charge. The nature of this charge is the same on all the particles in a given colloidal solution and may be either positive or negative. A list of some common souls with the nature of charge on their particles is given below. So there are two types of colloids. The one in which the particles carry positive charge are called positively charged souls, and the souls in which particles carry negative charge are called negatively charged soul. As I have explained you, in case of ferric hydroxide soul, that the colloidal particles of ferric hydroxide, being lyophobic, they may combine with each other to form precipitates. So in order to avoid combining of the particles, we are adding ferric chloride. So in ferric hydroxide soul, FeOH thrice, when we are adding ferric chloride electrolyte in the required amount, then in that case the Fe3 plus ion of the electrolyte is common to the Fe3 plus of the colloidal particles. So common ion which is there, that is Fe3 plus, will get adsorbed on the surface of the colloidal particles. So here we will see that as the two neighboring particles carry same charge, they will not combine, and so the stability of colloid can be maintained. But here we will see that if we take some another example, for example, if you take arsenic sulfide soul. So in case of arsenic sulfide soul, that is As2S3, we have to add an electrolyte which is having the negative ion common to arsenic sulfide. So we have to take H2S electrolyte. Then in that case, the negative ion sulfide of arsenic sulfide and the H2S is common. So that's why S raised to 2 minus ion is going to form a layer surrounding the colloidal particles. So here we will see that as the two neighboring particles have same negative charge, they will repel each other, and so coagulation will not take place. So here we can see that in this example, particles carry positive charge, they acquire positive charge. So that's why ferric hydroxide soul will come under positively charged soul. And in this example, particles carry negative charge, that's why arsenic sulfide soul is an example of negatively charged soul. So here we can see that if we want to show ferric hydroxide soul, either we can write a formula FeOH thrice, or we can also write Fe2O3 dot XH2O. So both are one and the same. So here you can see that Fe2O3 dot XH2O is an example of positively charged soul, and arsenic sulfide is an example of negatively charged soul. Some other examples of positively charged souls are all hydrated metal oxides like Al2O3 dot XH2O, CrO3 dot XH2O, Fe2O3 dot XH2O are positively charged soul. Basic dye stuffs such as methylene blue soul is also an example of positively charged soul. Hemoglobin present in the blood also is an example of positively charged soul. Metal oxides such as titanium oxide TiO2 is also positively charged soul. Now if we talk about negatively charged soul, so examples are metals such as copper, silver and gold are an example of negatively charged soul. Metallic sulfide such as As2S3, antimony sulfide Sb2S3, cadmium sulfide CdS, then acid dye stuff such as eosine, Congo red, souls of starch, gum, gelatin, clay, charcoal, all these are examples of negatively charged soul. So here we can see that the presence of equal and similar charges on colloidal particles is largely responsible in providing stability to the colloidal solution, because the repulsive forces between charged particles having same charge prevent them from coalescing, or we can say aggregating, when they come closer to one another. So here we will see that because of the same charges on the particles, they will repel each other, and so they will not undergo precipitation. The charge on the Sol particles is due to one or more reasons. For example, due to electron capture by Sol particles during electrodispersion of metals. So this is one of the reasons for the charge of the Sol particles. Okay, during electrodispersion of metals, as we have seen in case of Bragg arc method, we were using metal electrodes and passing current through the electrodes kept in the dispersion medium, and thereafter in the outer vessel we are keeping ice cubes. So in that activity, or in that method of preparation, we have seen that when we are passing electricity, there are the chances that the electrons may get captured on the surface of electrode, and so they become negatively charged, so that the colloidal particles formed will be negatively charged. Second reason is due to preferential adsorption of ions from the solution. So that we already seen that in case of positively and negatively charged Sol, the ion which is common to the colloidal particles from the electrolyte gets sticked or adsorbed on the surface of the colloidal particles. Then third reason is due to formulation of electric double layer. So this is the third reason. What is electric double layer? That we are going to study in this topic in the next slide. Development of charge on Sol particles by preferential adsorption of ions is described below. So how charge is created on the surface of the colloidal particles from the electrolyte, that we will study in the following paragraph. The Sol particles acquire either positive or negative charge by preferential adsorption of positive or negative ions. When two or more ions are present in the dispersion medium, for example, we have seen that in case of ferric hydroxide, when we are adding ferric chloride electrolyte, so both Fe3 plus and Cl minus does not adsorb, but only Fe3 plus gets adsorbed. So that means the ion which is common to the colloidal particles usually gets adsorbed. This can be explained by taking the following examples. When highly diluted solution of silver nitrate is added to highly diluted potassium iodide. So suppose in one test tube we are having potassium iodide. In this test tube or in the solution of Ki, if you are adding very dilute solution of silver nitrate, then in that case iodide ion with silver ion will form a precipitate of AgI. Now here we will see that Ki is the dispersion medium and AgI is the colloidal particle. So from the dispersion medium, out of K plus and I minus, which ion is common to AgI? So here we will see that in AgI colloidal particle I minus is there, and in Ki also I minus is there. So that means I minus from the dispersion medium is going to get adsorbed on the surface of the colloidal particle. So how can we show it symbolically? So we are having the colloidal particle of AgI, so that we have to write. Then we have to draw a vertical line which shows a surface of the colloidal particle, and thereafter we have to write down the ion which gets adsorbed on the surface of the colloidal particle. So that means I minus. So AGI oblique I minus. So here we can see that I minus gets adsorbed on AGI. That means it is forming negative charge. So it is negatively charged soul. So that is one example. But if we take AgNO3 as a dispersion medium instead of Ki, that means vice versa. Okay, so if you take AgNO3 as a dispersion medium, and in that if you are adding Ki, then again AgI precipitates are formed. But this time we will see that in the electrolyte we are having Ag plus and NO3 minus, and in the precipitate we are having AgI. So which ion is common in the electrolyte and in the dispersion medium and the colloidal particle? So here you can see that Ag is common. Okay? So that means out of AgNO3, Ag plus is going to form a layer surrounding AgI. So how can we write down AgI, then vertical line, and then from the dispersion medium Ag plus is getting adsorbed. So we will write vertical line Ag plus. So that means as the colloidal particle carries positive charge, so that is an example of positively charged soul. One more example is given. If ferric chloride is added to excess of hot water, a positively charged soul of hydrated ferric oxide is formed due to adsorption of Fe3 plus ions. So suppose here we are having hot water. In that if you are adding ferric chloride, so it will form colloidal particles of Fe2O3.XH2O, that is hydrated ferric oxide. Now here we will see that when you are adding excess of FeCl3, then in that case FeCl3 will become electrolyte. So the ion common in the colloidal particle and electrolyte is Fe3 plus. So that means Fe2O3.XH2O colloidal particles, then we will write vertical line, that is the surface of the colloidal particle, and on the surface Fe3 plus is getting adsorbed, so we will write Fe3 plus. So that means it is forming positively charged soul. And if we take NaOH solution instead of hot water, so if you take NaOH solution, and in that if you add ferric chloride, then in that case again you will get this precipitate of Fe2O3.XH2O, but this time OH minus of NaOH get adsorbed on the surface of Fe2O3.XH2O, because we know that Fe2O3.XH2O can also be written as FeOH thrice. Okay? Now here we will see that NaOH is strong electrolyte. So always the ion common to the strong electrolyte gets adsorbed. So in ferric hydroxide and NaOH, OH minus ion is common, so that will get adsorbed. So this time we will see that the colloidal particles of Fe2O3.XH2O are adsorbed by OH minus. So that means it is forming negatively charged soul. So in the first example we have seen that AgI gets adsorbed by I minus ion when we are taking Ki as a dispersion medium, and if we add AgNO3 into it, then in that case AgI precipitates are formed, and as I minus is common in the dispersion medium, that is going to form a layer surrounding the AgI. But here we will see that after forming the first layer with I minus, second layer will be formed with K plus. So that means after forming a first layer of I minus, second layer will be formed with K plus. So here you can see that in this figure it is given that AgI is the colloidal particle on which I minus is forming first layer, and thereafter K plus from the electrolyte or the dispersion medium forms second layer. So first layer which is there, which is the common ion, that will form a fixed layer. Okay, that will form a fixed layer. But a second layer which is formed by the remaining ion, so remaining ion is K plus over here, so that forms a diffused layer. Okay, so diffused layer means which is not fixed. So here we can see that two layers are formed. First is fixed layer and second is diffused layer. So here we can see that as the potential difference of fixed layer and diffused layer is different, because one is negative, one is positive. So this difference in the potential of the fixed layer and diffused layer is called electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. Okay, so what is zeta potential? So that is the difference between the potentials of fixed layer and diffuse layer. Now here we will see that this type of double layer which is formed between the fixed layer and diffuse layer is called Helmholtz electric double layer. So we will see that these two layers which are formed, one is fixed layer, one is diffused layer, is called Helmholtz electric double layer. And the difference between the potential or potential difference between fixed layer and diffuse layer is called electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. Here we will see that if two particles of an insoluble material, that is precipitate, do not have double layers, they can come close enough and attractive van der Waals forces pull them together. When particles opposes double layer as shown in figure 5.13, the overall effect is that particles repel each other at large distances of separation. This repulsion prevents their close approach. They remain dispersed and colloid is stabilized. So here we will see that if two particles of the colloid have double layers, then they can come close and get attracted by van der Waals force of attraction. But when double layer is there, so in the absence of double layer, they will come close to each other and form precipitate. But when double layer is there, then in that case they will repel each other at large distances of separation, and due to these repulsions their coagulation or precipitation is prevented, and so the colloid is stabilized. The addition of more electrolytes to Sol suppresses the diffused double layer and reduces zeta potential. So that means if less amount of electrolyte is there, it is able to keep the colloid stable. But if more amount of electrolyte is there, then what will happen? Okay, these two layers, that is fixed layer and diffused layer, they are getting disturbed, and so the layers get removed from the surface of the colloidal particles, and so electrokinetic potential or zeta potential is reduced, and this decreases the electrostatic repulsion between the oppositely charged particles, between the same charged particles, and so colloidal particles will start combining with each other to form precipitates. That is why colloid is sensitive to oppositely charged ions. Now number 6 is electrophoresis, very important. How can we come to know whether the colloidal particles are positive or negatively charged? So with the help of electrophoresis technique, we can come to know that whether the particles are having positive or negative charge on their surface. The existence of charge on colloidal particles is confirmed by electrophoresis experiment. When electrical potential is applied across two platinum electrodes dipping in a colloidal solution, the colloidal particles move towards one or the other electrode. The movement of colloidal particles under an applied electric field or electric potential is called electrophoresis. Positively charged particles moves towards the cathode while negatively charged particles moves towards the anode. So here diagram of electrophoresis is given. Here we will see that there is a U-shaped glass tube. At the lower end of the glass tube there is a stopcock which is connected with the reservoir. Through the reservoir we can introduce the colloidal soul, and when we have filled sufficient colloidal soul, then you have to close the stopcock. At the two end of the U-shaped glass tube there are corks which are connected with the platinum electrodes. One of the platinum electrode is negatively charged electrode, that is cathode. Another is positively charged electrode, that is anode. Now here we will see that if the colloidal particles carrying negative charge, then under the influence of electric field, the negatively charged soul will get attracted towards positively charged electrode, that is anode. So we can see that negatively charged soul will get attracted towards positively charged electrode, that is anode, and over there plus minus will cancel out, and so the soul particles become chargeless, and so they will start combining with each other, and so they will form precipitates, and human eye can easily see the precipitates. So if precipitates are collected at anode, that shows that the soul should contain negative charge. Now opposite to this, if suppose I have taken ferric hydroxide soul, which is a positively charged soul, then under the effect of electric field, the positively charged soul will get attracted towards cathode, that is negatively charged electrode, and will get discharged. That means that charge will get removed because minus plus will cancel out each other. So in that case we will get precipitates at cathode, and that indicates that the ferric hydroxide soul is positively charged soul and arsenic sulfide soul is negatively charged soul. So that is electrophoresis. Now suppose at the center if I put some membrane, okay, so some membrane is put, suitable membrane is put in the path of the colloidal soul, then what will happen? Okay, if negatively charged soul is there, then under the influence of electric field it will try to move towards anode, but because of the membrane they will move from here to here, but afterwards they will stop over here, because the pore size of the membrane is so small that colloidal particles will not be able to pass through them. Only dispersion medium, that is water, will be able to pass through the membrane. So water will pass through the membrane while the negatively charged soul will move towards the positive electrode, that is anode, but they will reach to the membrane and they will stop over here because they will not be able to pass through the holes of the membrane. Then such type of arrangement of filter paper, suitable membrane, and the movement of only solvent to pass through the membrane is called electroosmosis. So under the influence of electric field, water will move, that is dispersion medium will move, ions will also move, but ions will move up to membrane while water will be able to move till the anode. So we have seen two different phenomena, electrophoresis and electroosmosis. Now number 7 is coagulation or precipitation. So here we will see that the stability of lyophobic soul is due to the presence of charge on the colloidal particles. But if by making some arrangement, if the charge is removed from the surface of the colloidal particles, then the particles will come nearer to each other and form aggregates, or they will get combined with each other. They will undergo coagulation or precipitation, and because of the formation of precipitates, they will start settling down under the force of gravity. So the process of settling of the colloidal particles is called coagulation or precipitation of soul. So which are the different ways by which the charge on the colloidal particles can be disturbed? That means coagulation may take place. So coagulation of lyophobic sols can be carried out in the following ways. Number one is by electrophoresis. So already we have seen in this diagram that in electrophoresis, the negatively charged sol gets attracted towards positive electrode and gets discharged. That means the charge of the electrode and the charge of colloidal particles being opposite, they will cancel out each other, and so the particles will become chargeless and they will start combining with each other. So coagulation will take place or precipitation will take place by electrophoresis. Second method is by mixing two oppositely charged sol. Okay, suppose we are having ferric hydroxide sol which is positively charged, and we are having arsenic sulfide sol which is negatively charged. But if we mix them with each other, then what we will see that the charges of both the colloidal particles will cancel out each other. So in that case they will start coagulating, or mutual coagulation or precipitation will take place. Third reason for coagulation of colloids is by boiling. When a sol is boiled, the adsorbed layer is disturbed due to increased collisions with the molecules of dispersion medium. So when the dispersed phase collides frequently with the dispersion medium because of boiling, the charge on the colloidal particles gets reduced and ultimately leads to settling down in the form of precipitate. Number 4 is by persistent dialysis. So in dialysis we have seen that water is passed through trough from the lower end and water exits from the higher end, and we are putting a special type of membrane in which the colloidal particles are kept, and water is continuously entering and exiting from the colloidal sol through the membrane. So in that case what happens? Okay, we are removing excess of electrolyte from the colloidal particles or from the colloidal sol. But when we are doing persistent dialysis, means for very long time, prolonged dialysis, then excess of electrolyte will be removed, as well as the required electrolyte will also get removed. So in that case now there will be no more charge on the surface of the colloidal particles, and so they will start combining with each other and form precipitates. Number 5 is by addition of electrolytes. So we know that by adding small amount of electrolyte, we can make the lyophobic colloid stable. But if you take excess of electrolyte instead of the required amount, if you take excess of electrolyte, then the colloids will interact with ions carrying charge opposite to that present on themselves. So what will happen? Okay, suppose the colloidal particles are positively charged, then in that case when we are adding excess of electrolyte, they will start interacting with the negative charge of the excess electrolyte, and so the opposite charges will cancel out each other's effect, and this leads to the neutralization of the charges, leading to precipitation or coagulation. The ion responsible for neutralization of charge of the particles is called coagulating ion. For example, if positively charged sol is there, and in that if you are adding the electrolyte, then the negative ion of the electrolyte will be known as coagulating ion. So the ion which is opposite to the ion of the colloidal particles is called coagulating ion. So that means the positively charged sol gets precipitated by negative ion, and so negative ion is called coagulating ion, and the negatively charged sol is precipitated by positive ion of the electrolyte. So in that case positive ion will become the coagulating ion. It has been observed that generally the greater the valence of the flocculating ion or precipitating ion, coagulating ion added, the greater is its power to cause precipitation. This is known as Hardy-Schulze rule. So that you have to remember. This is the Hardy-Schulze rule. The greater the valence of the flocculating ion added, the greater is its power to cause precipitation. This is called Hardy-Schulze rule. Let us understand this. Suppose I am having arsenic sulfide sol. Now I am knowing that it is a negatively charged sol. Then in that case, in order to remove the negative charge, I will have to add such electrolyte which has positive charge. For example, I can add AlCl3, or we can add BaCl2, BaNO3 twice, okay, barium nitrate, or sodium chloride. Now which will be able to coagulate As2S3 more, means which is having more coagulating power. So we know that the positive ion is able to coagulate arsenic sulfide. Now Al3 plus is having plus 3 valence, Ba2 plus is having plus 2 valence, and Na plus is having plus 1 valence. So the one which is having more charge will have more coagulating power. So Al3 plus is having more coagulating power. That means it can coagulate arsenic sulfide to more extent. Ba2 plus is having less charge or less valence, so it will able to coagulate arsenic sulfide to less extent, and Na plus will be able to coagulate As2S3 to even less extent. So that means Al3 plus can coagulate As2S3 to more extent, and so it is required in small amounts. Okay, so suppose Al3 plus is able to coagulate As2S3 to more extent, so it will require, suppose 1 drop, aluminum chloride is required 1 drop, then barium 2 plus will require 2 drops because its coagulating power is less. So that's why its amount required will be more. And Na plus is having very less coagulating power, so its amount required will be even more. Okay, so we will see that if Al3 plus is required 1 drop, then Ba2 plus will be required 2 drops because it is having less coagulating power. And so in order to cause complete precipitation, we require more amount of Ba2 plus, and we require even more amount of Na plus. So in the coagulation of a negative sol, the flocculating power of the ion is in the order of Al3 plus greater than Ba2 plus greater than Na plus. Now suppose you are having positively charged sol, for example ferric hydroxide, which is positively charged sol. So in order to remove the positive charge from the sol, in order to precipitate it, we require negative ions such as ferrocyanide ion, FeCN6 4 minus, phosphate ion, sulfate ion, chloride ion. Now all the ions are negatively charged, so that means they are able to remove the positive charge by cancelling its effect. But FeCN6 4 minus is having more valence, so that's why it is required in less amount, and it is having more coagulation power or flocculating power as compared to PO4 3 minus, and PO4 3 minus is having more coagulating power than SO4 2 minus, and SO4 2 minus is having more coagulating power as compared to Cl minus. So the one which is having more valence is having more coagulating power, and so it is required in less amount. Now next important definition is coagulating value. So what is coagulating value? The minimum concentration of an electrolyte in millimoles per liter required to cause precipitation of a sol in 2 hours is called coagulating value. So two conditions are there. First is that the minimum amount of electrolyte is required in millimoles per liter to cause precipitation of sol, and second condition is within 2 hours. Okay, so it should neither take less than 2 hours nor more than 2 hours. It should take exactly 2 hours. So for complete precipitation of sol within in exactly 2 hours, what is the minimum amount of electrolyte in millimoles per liter required is called coagulating value. The smaller the quantity needed, the higher will be the coagulating power of the ion. That we already discussed, that if the charge is less, okay, then in that case, if charge is more, then in that case its coagulating power is more, and so it will be required in less amount. And the less charge is there, so coagulating power is less, and so it will be required in more amount. Now next is coagulation of lyophilic soul. There are two factors which are responsible for the stability of lyophilic soul. So we will see that why lyophilic soul are able to remain stable. So there are two factors. They are charge and solvation of the colloidal particles. So with the help of charge on the surface of colloidal particles and their solvation, that means a formation of layer of dispersion medium on the surface of dispersed phase, that is called solvation. So because of the solvation, that is the formation of layer of dispersion medium on the surface of colloidal particles, as well as the charge on the colloidal particles, they are able to remain stable. If these two factors are removed, then the coagulation of colloidal particle will take place. So how can we remove charge? The charge can be removed by addition of electrolyte. And how can we remove solvation? By the addition of suitable solvent. So if you are adding a solvent which is lyophobic, okay, so instead of lyophilic solvent, if you are adding lyophobic solvent, then lyophilic and lyophobic will repel each other. So in that case, what will happen? The lyophilic solvent will start moving away from the surface of the colloidal particles. And second is by adding electrolyte. So if you add electrolyte of opposite charge, then in that case charge of the colloidal particles will get neutralized, and so the colloidal particles will start precipitating. Suppose here we are having water loving soul, okay, so in that case dispersion medium is water. Now if you are adding a mixture of alcohol and acetone which is hydrophobic, then dehydration of colloidal particles will take place. That means the layer of water will start getting removed from the surface of the colloidal particles. So in that case the dispersed phase will become dehydrated, and so the two neighboring dispersed phase or colloidal particles will start combining with each other to form bigger size particles, that means precipitates. Under this condition, a small quantity of electrolyte can bring about coagulation. So if you are adding even extra small amount of electrolyte, it will cause precipitation. Now next is protection of colloids. How can we protect the colloids? So lyophilic sols are more stable than lyophobic sols due to the fact that lyophilic colloids are extensively solvated. That means in case of lyophilic sols, the dispersion medium is forming a layer or a sheet surrounding the colloidal particles, and so lyophilic sols are more stable. Lyophilic colloids have unique property of protecting the lyophobic colloids. That's why what we can do, if you are having a lyophobic colloid, then in that we can mix lyophilic sol. So in lyophobic colloid, which is already there in the vessel, if we add lyophilic sol, then in that case lyophilic particles are going to form layer surrounding the lyophobic particles, and thus they protect the lyophobic particles from coming closer to each other, as well as they also protect the lyophobic sol from electrolytes. So here we will see that lyophilic sol or lyophilic colloid used for this purpose are called protective colloids, means they will protect the lyophobic sol. Now next topic is emulsion. What is emulsion? These are liquid colloidal systems where dispersed phase and dispersion medium both are liquid, and here the dispersion of finely divided droplets is there in another liquid. So that means dispersed phase is present in the form of small droplets in the dispersion medium. If a mixture of two immiscible liquids or partially miscible liquids is shaken, a coarse, that means big dispersion, okay? Not very small but bigger particles are formed. A coarse dispersion of one liquid in the other is obtained which is called emulsion. Generally, one of the two liquids is water. So one of the two liquids is water. Either dispersed phase is water or dispersion medium is water. So in that case, what we will do, that the second liquid which is there, that may be named as oil. Okay. So it's not necessary it is oil only. It may be any XYZ substance, but that substance will be known as oil. Now there are two type of emulsions. One is oil dispersed in water. So that can be written as O/W type. So here we will see that first oil is there, so it will be dispersed phase, and then water is there, so that will be dispersion medium. So always dispersed phase is written first and dispersion medium is written afterwards. Okay. Similarly, when we write water in oil, so that can be written as W/O. So first W is there, that means water is dispersed phase and oil is dispersion medium. So here we can see that oil in water mein, water is the dispersion medium and oil is the dispersed phase, and in case of water in oil, oil is the dispersion medium and water is dispersed phase. In the first system, that is oil in water, water acts as dispersion medium. Examples of oil in water are milk, vanishing cream. So these two are examples of oil in water type of emulsions. So here we will see that in milk, fat is dispersed phase and water is dispersion medium in case of milk. So that means it is oil in water type of emulsion. Now water in oil. So example of water in oil are, so this you have to remember for exam. Examples of water in oil are butter, cream, and one more example I am giving, cod liver oil. Okay, that means the oil obtained from the liver of the shark, that is called cod liver oil. So butter, cream and cod liver oil, these three are examples of water in oil. So here we will see that emulsions of oil in water are unstable and sometimes they separate into two layers on standing. So when they are kept, when the vessel of oil in water is kept undisturbed, oil and water will start getting separated and form two layers. So in order to stabilize this emulsion, that is oil in water type of emulsion, a third component called emulsifying agent is usually added. The emulsifying agent forms an interfacial film between suspended particles and medium. So emulsifying agent will form a layer between dispersed phase and dispersion medium, and so they will make the colloidal sole stable. The principal emulsifying agent for oil in water emulsions are proteins, gums, natural and synthetic soaps. So in the exam it may be asked, oil in water के लिए which emulsifying agents are there? Proteins, gums and natural and synthetic, that is natural and artificial soaps. And which are the emulsifying agent to make water in oil stable? So they are different. Okay. For water in oil, the emulsifying agents are heavy metal salts of fatty acid. So here you can see that soap and detergents, natural and synthetic soaps, they are sodium salt of fatty acid. Okay? The sodium salt of fatty acids are used in oil in water, and heavy metal salts of fatty acids are used in water in oil. Long chain alcohols are used as emulsifying agents in water in oil. And lamp black, in our daily life we say kajal. Okay, आँखों में लगाने वाला जो काजल है, ठीक है, that is lamp black. That is also a emulsifying agent for water in oil. Emulsions can be diluted with any amount of dispersion medium. On the other hand, dispersed liquid, when mixed, forms a separate layer. The droplets in emulsions are often negatively charged and can be precipitated by electrolytes. So this you have to remember that most of the times emulsions are negatively charged. So they can be precipitated by electrolytes. They also show the properties of colloids such as Brownian movement, Tyndall effect. Emulsions can be broken down into constituent liquids by heating, freezing, centrifugation, etc. So here we will see that the two liquids, dispersed phase and dispersion medium of emulsions, can be separated by heating, freezing or centrifuging. Now next is colloids around us. Many substances we come across in our daily life are colloids. The meals we eat, that is food we eat, the clothes we wear, the wooden furniture we use, रोटी कपड़ा मकान, ठीक है, meals we eat, clothes we wear, wooden furniture we use, the houses we live in, the newspaper we read are largely composed of colloids. Following are the interesting and noteworthy examples of colloids. Blue color of sky. Why sky appears blue? Dust particles along with water are suspended in air. They scatter the blue light of the sun, which reaches our eyes, and the sky looks blue to us. Second is fog, mist and rain. These are also examples of colloids. When a large mass of air containing dust particles is cooled below its dew point, the moisture from the air condenses on the surface of these particles, forming fine droplets. These droplets are being colloidal in nature, continue to float in air in the form of mist or fog. Clouds are aerosols having small droplets of water suspended in air. On account of condensation in the upper atmosphere, that means collection in the upper atmosphere, the colloidal droplets of water grow bigger and bigger in size till they come down in the form of rain. Sometimes the rainfall occurs when two oppositely charged clouds meet. So here we will see that if one cloud is positively charged Sol, another cloud is negatively charged Sol, if they collide with each other, then that leads to rainfall. It is possible to cause artificial rain by throwing electrified sand or spraying a Sol carrying charge opposite to the one on the clouds from the aeroplane. So suppose if you have to create artificial rain, suppose cloud is carrying positive charge, then with the help of aeroplane we can go above the clouds and then we can sprinkle electrified sand. That means the sand containing charge. Okay, for example, sand contains electrons. Okay, the electrons are negatively charged. So negatively charged sand will neutralize the charge of the cloud, and so the particles of water in the cloud will become discharged, and so they will combine with each other and form bigger particles, and these bigger droplets of water will fall down in the form of rain. Food articles, milk, butter, halwa, ice creams, fruit juices, etc. are all colloids in one or the other form. Blood, it is a colloidal solution of albuminoid substance. So that's why blood we will see that it is an example of positively charged colloid or positively charged Sol. So here it is a colloidal solution of albuminoid substance. The styptic action of alum and ferric chloride solution is due to coagulation of blood forming a clot which stops further bleeding. So here we will see that suppose when we are doing shaving, and if while shaving, if blade of the razor cuts the skin, then in that case bleeding will take place. So we are applying fitki, okay, fatakdi, alum. So piece of alum is rubbed on that injury part. So what happens, that alum is opposite Sol as compared to ferric chloride. So mutual coagulation will take place, and so the blood coagulation will start. and forming a clot so that the bleeding will stop. Soils. Fertile soil are colloidal in nature, in which humus acts as protective colloid. So we will see that fertile soil is generally present in river water as well as in the agricultural fields. So they are colloidal in nature, in which humus acts as a protective colloid. On account of colloidal nature, soils absorb moisture and nourishing materials which are required for the proper growth of the plant. Number 6, formation of delta. River water is a colloidal solution of clay. Okay, उसमें क्या होगा, मिट्टी होगा river water में. Sea water contains a number of electrolytes. For example, NaCl is present in sea water. When river water meets sea water, the electrolyte present in sea water coagulate the colloidal solution of clay. So the particles of clay will undergo precipitation in the presence of excess of NaCl or any other electrolyte present in the sea water, resulting in its deposition. So clay will start depositing at one place wherever sea water and river water meet each other, and over there you will see several heaps, or we will see that some delta are formed of clay. So clay is getting collected at one place, and so it will form a heap. Okay, so it will be collected in one place. So between river water and sea water, you will see the delta of clay is getting formed. Applications of colloids. Colloids are widely used in industry. For example, electrical precipitation of smoke. In case of factories, in the chimney of the factory, Cottrell smoke precipitator is established. Here what happens, whatever smoke is there, it is passed through the precipitator, and it contains the positive electrode through which high voltage electricity of 30,000 volt or more than 30,000 volt is supplied. So here what happens, smoke is a negatively charged soul and the electrode is positively charged. So what will happen, that smoke will start getting discharged on the surface of the electrode, and so the particles of smoke, that is unburnt carbon particles, they will get collected and will form precipitates, and when the precipitates become heavier, they will start falling down and they will get collected in the form of precipitated ash at the base of the chimney. That is Cottrell smoke precipitator. Afterwards, the another smoke will get the surface for the adsorption. So here we will see that thereafter gases free from smoke may be allowed to pass into the atmosphere. So that means now we can make the gases free from carbon particles. So by using Cottrell smoke precipitator, we will be able to pass the gas, and so smoke will be removed and the gases will not create pollution. Second, purification of drinking water. The water obtained from natural sources often contains suspended impurities. So in that case we add alum, ठीक है, फटकड़ी ऐड करेंगे water में. So what happens, that the suspended impurities will start precipitating, and that's why they will start settling down, and afterwards we can filter the water and make water fit for drinking purpose. Third is medicines. Most of the medicines are colloidal in nature. So here 4 examples are given. Number 1 is Argyrol, is a silver sole used as eye lotion. Okay? The Argyrol is used in eye lotion. Second example is colloidal antimony, is used in the curing Kala Azar, which is one type of fever. Okay, so in order to treat that fever, Kala Azar, we use colloidal antimony. Third example is colloidal gold, is used in intramuscular injections. So in the injection given in the muscles, colloidal gold is used. Fourth example, milk of magnesia, that is magnesium hydroxide, which is an emulsion, is used to treat stomach disorder. Okay, so milk of magnesia is used as an antacid. So these are the 4 Examples of colloids used in medicines. Colloidal medicines are more effective because of their large surface area. They can be easily assimilated. That means they will be easily absorbed by the tissues and cells, and so they will have their faster effect in the body. Now next is tanning. TANNING. So what is it? Animal hides are colloidal in nature. That means leather of the skin of the animal is colloidal in nature. When a hide which has positively charged particles, animal hides are having positively charged particles, it is soaked, means the skin of the leather is soaked in a solution called tannin. So what will happen? That tannin will be negatively charged. So mutual coagulation of opposite charges will take place, due to which the particles of the animal hides or animal skin will start becoming neutral, and so they will start precipitating or coagulating, and due to this the animal hides or animal leather will start becoming harder. Okay, so hardening of leather takes place. So this process is called tanning. Okay, process is called tanning, and the chemical which is used is known as tannin. Generally tannin में क्या यूज होता है? Chromium salts. Okay, तो chromium salts may also be used in place of tannin. Number 5 is cleansing action of soap and detergent. Already we have studied, so that is also an example of emulsion. Photographic plates and films. Photographic plate or films are prepared by coating an emulsion of light sensitive silver bromide in gelatin over glass plates or celluloid films. So first of all we will take glass plate or celluloid film, okay, made up of cellulose, and on that surface we will coat a layer of silver bromide in gelatin. And silver bromide is a light sensitive material. So in black and white photography, after developing the film by using silver bromide in gelatin, which is a colloid, it is kept under sunlight, so afterwards the film will get developed. Number 7, rubber industry. In rubber industry, colloids are used. Latex, okay, which is a viscous liquid, it is a colloidal solution of rubber particles which are negatively charged. Okay, so rubber latex is negatively charged. So how rubber is obtained? By precipitation of latex. So by coagulation of latex, rubber is obtained. Number 8, industrial products. Paints, inks, synthetic plastics, rubber, graphite, lubricant, cement, etc. are also colloidal particles. So here our chapter is getting over.